This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1876, a Cornucopia of Comics Conversation 2022, Super Zoom.
Laser beams, opinions like the seasons, and everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek Speak, Comic Geek, uniting the world's mightiest heroes. This is...
I'm Adam Murdo.
I'm Ian Levinstein.
I'm Matt.
I'm Shane Kelly.
And I'm Chris Everly. You know, Shane, as a kid, you don't realize how disturbing Dr. Mindbender's outfit actually is.
Oh, absolutely.
Older.
Yeah.
And you realize somebody at Marvel has had some like weird S&M fetish going on.
I really wish they would have released like a trench coat to go with him or like a lab coat. I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with that.
Like that is a far out uniform, man.
Maybe that's a line from that one new company that uses kids that's out there.
Oh.
I got nothing here? Okay.
80-20, man.
which is better than my like 60-40 usually, so that's not bad. That's not bad. Welcome one and all to the Super Show. Okay, no, it's just a Zoom, but it's close enough. As we have gathered here post Thanksgiving comas to talk as much nerdy, geeky conversation as humanly possible here. We'll go comics, we'll go media, we'll go recent news, we'll go to the audience. We've got Q&A that we can turn to. We got a little bit of everything this episode. And we have an audience as well. So welcome all of you who have decided to take some time out of your night in order to join us. We've got tons of familiar faces, some unfamiliar faces here on the show that hopefully you'll be able to let us know a little bit more about yourselves if you are joining us in one of these festivities for the first time at some point. But either way, thank you all for coming here. We really do appreciate it.
Yes, indeed.
Amen.
Indeed.
Yes. If my math is correct, the show is 18 on March of 2023. Yep. Yes, Lennon, that is indeed correct.
We're the age of an adult.
Yes. Yep. And
we can finally call 1-900 numbers without our parents' permission.
That's stated yourself.
That's very true. Yep.
Yeah.
I know.
We're gonna get that phone bill up as high as it can possibly go. That's the way that's gonna roll. But yeah, before we get started, we would like to thank you, the audience, which is all here for us. You get to see the finger guns in person at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak for all your many months of support. And we really do appreciate it for every single thing that you guys do. For as little as $1 a month, you get to keep this show running, both virtually and in person, as we are going to try to use the studio a little bit more often in these next few months.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Especially once Murd makes his sojourn back, so that'll be happening. But yeah, we really do appreciate every single thing that you've done for the show over the years. And if you can't donate monetarily, just let a friend know, let a coworker know, let a cousin, let your neighbor who lives down the street with the cool dog know, like whatever you want to do. Patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. We thank you so much for that continued support.
I love when you riff like that.
It's all I know how to do.
You got those Borscht Belt gestures. It's fantastic, man.
Once again, it's just built in. It's built in, man. That's the way it rolls. So first off, how was everybody's Thanksgiving?
Filling. Very filling.
Nice.
Like I could be rolled out of the room onto the carpet.
That's the way it should be.
It's fine food, family, and fellowship.
Yeah.
Nice.
Indeed.
I got to do all the relatives at the table. That was nice too.
I even got to do something that I normally haven't been able to do on holidays, which I used to do as a kid. After all the food had been eaten and all the crap had been cleaned up, I got to sit down and I read some comics on my iPad.
Nice.
Normally, I take a whole bunch of stuff with me and then I never read it. I was able to sit and read.
All the crap has been cleaned up. What were you guys eating?
Just all the dishes.
Everything. He was eating everything.
Everything.
Murd, how'd you spend yours?
Oh, working as usual. But did get to see the fam for an hour and a half or so. Had a nice 11 a.m. Thanksgiving dinner and then reported straight to the barn where, as has become a Thanksgiving tradition, I got to see the sister and family of Jamie D.
Excellent.
Sister Shauna and her husband, John, and their 3 kids were getting scarily advanced in years. 2 of them are college age now.
Wow.
They all came by and bought some stuff and, teased me about the Cowboys playing later that day. And hugged and off they went on their way. It's always nice to see Shauna and the family.
Here's to you, Jamie. Always, you're always in our thoughts, and always nice to see Shauna in any form as well. That's a good reminder. Matt, what about you?
Actually, did we had the in-laws come out. Meg made a terrific Thanksgiving meal as she normally does. And then basically Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I was working in a lot of paperwork. Try to get ready for the end of the month at work, but got a little bit of fun time in there as well. So I wouldn't say it was too relaxing, but it wasn't too bad.
Nice. Yeah, Thursday we went over to New Jersey to visit some of Martha's family. Her mother came in for the holidays, so she joined us in the Uber, and we got to get stuck in that lovely George Washington Bridge traffic that I love so much. But it wasn't so bad. What should have been a half-hour trip only took us about an hour. So that was
Ian, this explains the surge of electricity I felt. I didn't realize you would cross the border into my homeland. Now I understand. Well done, sir.
The Borscht
Felt like
Belt,
someone's walked on your grave, right?
Exactly. The Borscht Belt level went up by about 80. But we went there and had a great time. Martha brined a turkey and cooked it ahead of time, and we heated everything up in the oven. And tons of other good food and fun to be had. And then Friday we sat on our butts and did very little. And then Saturday went to the movies. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But it was a nice, relaxing Thanksgiving overall.
Splendid.
So,
Good.
what better way to start than perhaps with some comics conversation?
Yes.
Shane, what'd you get to read on your iPad?
I was catching up on some of the Dark Crisis stuff. I had read issue 1 and 2. I can't tell you how long ago, whenever it came out, and I dropped off of it then. But now that so much of it is available on DC's app, I was downloading the whole series, and I got up to almost. I'm ready to read issue 3, but I read all the tie-in issues, so I started over with 0 and went right through all the Young Justice, the Flash. I think there's a Superman Robin one that's an alternate universe, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah, I believe so.
So I read through those.
Nice. Yeah, I just finished Dark Crisis issue 6 earlier tonight. So I think that puts me entirely caught up. And it's, it does seem like it's actually coming to a satisfying conclusion. I think it kind of feels like a cover song of Crisis on Infinite Earths at this point. Like it hits a lot of those same beats. Yeah, but it's also trying to weave its own story, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think it does an adequate job of doing what it's doing. I just still want to see exactly what happens after this, and why 100% why this was necessary. But it's enjoyable. I think I'm digging it a lot. And that green special, like the one with Swamp Thing and Constantine and all that was excellent. That was, I think, easily one of my favorite issues of the entire thing, even if it was a side issue. Yep, it's really digging that. Chris, you get any Thanksgiving reading in?
Of course, Levy Poo. I've read Dark Crisis up through issue 4. I just read those last night, actually. And like you, I'm enjoying it. Nothing can touch the epic grandeur of the original Crisis miniseries, but I think it's well written. I'm enjoying how they're putting Nightwing up in front, which is befitting how important his title is now as well. I've realized I've become so turned off by events and crossovers that I don't even really read them much anymore. But this one's keeping me relatively engaged, which for me that says something. I read last night I read issues 2 and 3 of the new Genis Vell miniseries.
Yes.
Which is really fun because it's Peter David doing the whole Genis Vell, Rick Jones dynamic. You really can't go wrong with that. So it's just really fun to see those characters back there and interacting, and that's just been a delight. Let's see what else. Oh, the new the latest Reckless graphic novel by the dream team of Brubaker and Phillips came out. My last shipment. I was just salivating. Every page is amazing. It's, to me, again, that team is the premier creative team in comics.
Nice.
And if you want, noir that is just on the next level, these are the books you need to read. So I was thoroughly enjoyed that. Let's see what else. I finished Batman the Knight. Have you read this, Shane?
No.
You're gonna. It probably be my nominee for miniseries of the year. Only
Really?
Because, well, I can't take Blue and Gold, obviously.
Well, that's true.
And I can't do Human Target because it's not going to end by the end of the year per Murd's rules for the award show.
Exactly.
So it's just a really engaging. Chip Zdarsky is the writer. It's a really engaging story about that period of time where Bruce Wayne is traveling the world, as we all know, acquiring skills to become Batman. And I really found the story compelling because it's Bruce as a very young man, so he's not Batman yet. So he's unsure of himself. He's traveling with a companion. He meets different characters that we've read about or heard about in previous stories, and it's a very interesting take on young Bruce Wayne and how he really, he's not Batman at all yet. Mm-hmm. He's acquiring the skills, and you see that develop through the story. But this is a miniseries I was looking forward to reading every month. Not one issue disappointed me. So Shane, you would especially enjoy this. I can't, and the art by I can't pronounce the name. Also riveting, really outstanding miniseries. And sometimes you feel like you're just being hit with a cascade of miniseries. What do you read? What do you not read? This is one I'm really glad that I picked up.
So would you call this like Batman year -1? Like, because I mean we've gotten year 1, we've gotten year 0. No. Like this is even further back than that.
In your inimitable style, L. Levinstein, you captured it quite well.
Okay.
Yeah. Imagine like when he returns to Wayne Manor at the beginning of Batman year 1. This is what he was doing before that.
Got it.
Essentially.
Or is it Bruce Wayne last year? just say.
Matt, I always forgot how brilliant your deadpan is. Well done, sir. Well done. What else have I read? I talked about Blue and Gold last time. Just that was sublime.
Yeah.
I think that's finishing up Cantwell's Iron Man run, which is that's probably the best Iron Man I've read since the Fraction period. Really enjoying that. We talked about that before. And I read also Cantwell's first issue of his new series, Briar, which it's an indie title, which is his take on the Legend of Sleeping Beauty. Far darker, as Mert would say, most fairy tales originally began as much darker stories.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Cantwell definitely goes in that direction. And it was a page turner. Like I was really enjoying his spin on what we think of the Disneyfied version of Sleeping Beauty.
Right.
It's nothing like that at all. It's very grim, actually.
Eric
I didn't even mean that pun, Mert. I didn't mean that pun. So if you're interested in Cantwell as a writer, because I've been raving about him on the show for quite some time, and want to see him doing something outside the realm of superhero properties, this is a title I highly recommend, and I'll definitely be picking up subsequent issues as they come out. I think that's. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention, I should have mentioned our last comic talk. The last issue of Lazarus that came out not too long ago. Remember, they've been Rucka and Lark been doing that in like a prestige format, essentially, in a quarterly book. And they just wrapped up the latest arc. Brilliant, again, to me, consistently one of the best comics out there for the past several years. And they're going on a very long hiatus, so the book is not going to return for quite some time. But in his letters page, he talked about how they have an ending, and they're going to actually end the book. And they're going to return to like a 32-page more monthly format again, but it's not going to be for quite some time. I think he said a year, something like that, until they come back. So I'll be waiting for that with bated breath. So I think that's my field report for now.
Nice. You mentioned the Janice Vell miniseries. Mert,
yes.
Have you started that one?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But I do think this is a good time to mention that GoFundMe page that.
Yes.
Somebody posted the link to on our Facebook super group. It might even be somebody present here on the Super Zoom right now. But Peter David is having another spate of health problems. Yep, Lennon Patton. Thank you, Lennon.
Yep.
He's had a series of mini strokes, a heart attack, among other things, and so his wife Kathleen, I think her name is, and her family, the GoFundMe is put together just for the sake of helping his family to meet basic living expenses while trying to be there for Peter as he fights against this whole volley of health problems he's been having.
Yeah.
And as one of our favorite storytellers in the comics medium,
yes,
I think it's worthy of a donation. I plan to support it myself.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's good to see that they had a lofty goal of $40,000 and they've already well surpassed that. Which is very, very good to see. 53,266 as we're recording this, and obviously anything we can do to go towards Peter David's continued good health is something that I want to see.
Hear, hear.
Amen to that.
And as our chat noted, if he was living in Canada, probably wouldn't have to worry about all that. Just saying.
Yeah, well, what I to bring it back on a better note for Peter at least, I did read the first 2 issues of this new Genisville miniseries. Both the first 2 issues are available on Marvel Unlimited, so I wanted to make sure that I read that before we actually talked tonight, and it's like going home again.
Yeah,
it's he captures the characters of Rick and Janice like he never stopped writing them. It's absolutely has that same personality and vibe to it that the initial runs of Captain Marvel did. And the setup for this, I'm not even familiar with how they came back because I'm not up to date on the Captain Marvel series. I know you don't have to be necessarily, but what you need to know is that Janice is back from the dead, and so is Rick, because Rick was also dead for a while. They both got better. We don't quite know exactly how Rick came back, but Janice is a clone of a clone at this point. And he's looking to get his memories back so that he'll actually know exactly who he is and how to be Janice. He also doesn't have the negabands at the moment, so that's one of the things that's trying to be done, is to get the negabands back to him so that he can control his abilities. And also, Rick's going through some weird, temporal misplacements that may very well be connected to the negabands as well. So that's all going on, and all while that's happening, there's a side story being told from during his initial Captain Marvel run involving Marlowe and Moondragon when they first went off for their initial sabbatical. So it's filling in a gap that has always been there, and a meeting with death that happened there. It's in general, it's absolutely what I wanted from the series.
Yep.
Murd, you will love it. You will absolutely love it.
And in no way am I dissing the current artist, but I miss Chris Cross's art.
Oh, agreed. Yeah,
immensely.
Yeah, both
The
him
way he
and
captured-
and what was it? Was it Leonardi who also did artwork on Captain Marvel? I'm trying to remember who the other artist was during the run.
I'm failing you there, sir. I don't recall.
Yeah, but Chris Cross's style is hard to hard to surpass, definitely. But it's good stuff.
And Fred just posted a very nice comment, and that all credit to Mr. Levenstein for reposting that spotlight from Lothos 5 years ago.
Indeed, yep. Fred says this would all be gibberish to me if it wasn't for Classic Geek Speak number 1636. Check it out on the feed and check it out on YouTube in full video. It was awesome getting to see the initial setup at a studio one more time too, because I haven't seen that round table in a while with the bigger room and everything. So,
oh my god, that table was massive.
Yep, but it really is going home again. And Bird, when you do read it, I'd love to see your thoughts, because it's going to be great.
Okay, well, I know I have all 5 issues in hand now, so
Excellent, good to know. Merge, you get a chance to read anything, or too busy working?
Not lately. Yeah, I'm working 10 to 9 shifts, like 6 days a week. I drag myself home. I don't have enough power of concentration left to really read much of anything. I just
Understood.
throw myself down, watch some sitcom reruns, and pass out. But I think the last thing I did read was the Infinite Crisis Aftermath, the Spectre miniseries, introducing Crispus Allen as the new Spectre.
Very nice.
Which was written by Will Pfeiffer, who was doing stuff for DC in those days, and the art was by Ryan Sook, I believe, which is reason enough to read the miniseries in and of itself. I've only read the first 2 issues of it so far, but just I'm sorry, but Ostrander and Mandrake's run of the Spectre kind of spoiled me for every other creative team on the character that has followed.
That's fair. Yeah.
The rules and the expansion of the mythology of the Spectre that they've put in place, I think just shouldn't be tweaked or trifled with afterwards. And everything they did with the Spectre after Day of Judgment did a lot more than tweak. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But in terms of more recent things, one thing I thought I would mention, and Shane, I think you might have mentioned this on a past comic talk. I'm holding up.
That's on the top of my pile.
The new Golden Age one-shot.
Yes.
Yep, brought to you by Jeff Johns and Jerry Ordway, Steve Lieber, Mikhail Hanin, and a whole bunch of other artists. It's kind of a preview of things to come of Johns' new approach to the JSA. The first issue of which, of the latest volume of the Justice Society, just came out today as we record this.
Yep.
So this is it's very timey-wimey. So Shane, you'll enjoy it in that respect. I'm pretty sure that Per Degaton, the original dick with a time machine, is involved here. Up to his and it just jumps around in time between different eras of the Justice League, past and future. We actually see a 30th century or 31st century incarnation of the Justice Society, just in time to get slaughtered by that red-headed weasel Per Degaton.
Okay.
And Johns is introducing. It might be the biggest mass introduction of Golden Age legacy characters possibly since Infinity Inc., or maybe since the last time Jeff Johns relaunched Justice Society with a new #1, when he introduced like Citizen Steel and the new Amazing Man, etc. But yeah, he's introducing this concept of the lost children, a bunch of Golden Age sidekicks. And then that's going to spin out into a Stargirl miniseries, the first issue of which was already published a couple of weeks ago.
And with art by the one and only Todd Knock, and I cannot wait to read that.
Yep, and not only that, but speaking of Mr. Knock, there's a bunch of Who's Who style profile pages. I don't know if you can see this too well, but there's an example of Todd Knock's artwork right there.
Ooh.
This newly retcon-created sidekick for the human bomb called Cherry Bomb.
Nice.
And so about half of these are actually, the artwork is done by Knock, and the other half is by Ordway, including this, which I was thrilled to see, finally.
Wow.
The gloves.
Earth 2 Aquaman.
Wow.
The original Aquaman.
Oh,
I thought
boy.
that was a major omission from the original volume of Who's Who, and now we got it.
Nice.
So, thank you, Johns. Thank you, Ordway. Thank you, DC in general, for taking an interest, in the original period of superhero history here. I'm just thrilled that the Justice Society is back in a big
I am too.
Absolutely.
I am too.
Yeah, and that DC remembers that there was a golden age.
right?
That was a dark time when they basically tried to shoo away the JS, and it's happened multiple times now. It's not even like it was just a New 52, but before then they tried to reboot things and be like, well, there never really was a golden age. It all started now. But
that James Robinson written Earth 2 series with like a young, hot contemporary JSA.
Yep.
Yeah, never really did it for me.
Yeah, this just feels like going back home.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's way overdue.
And what better time to do such a thing than at Thanksgiving?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think of the JLA JSA Virtue and Vice graphic novel, which was all about like a Thanksgiving dinner between the two teams. And I think every Thanksgiving I've had since that was published, at least the image, like the Norman Rockwell style image of the two teams sitting down to a long table together, has kind of popped into my mind.
With the one and only Carlos Pacheco as well.
My goodness.
Bringing it back to him. Yep, that's an iconic graphic novel right there. I love that the pieces right there. Yep.
Mike posted about Stargirl: The Lost Children. I'm excited to read that as well. That's right under my age issue on my pile. I just think that's fantastic. My one niece just got into Stargirl and wanting to watch the TV show, so I found a copy of the trade paperback at a shop I was visiting, and I got it for her. And she's said she's sparingly reading it to make it last until I find some more Stargirl related things for her to read. So that's cool. Ben was where did he go? He went to his grandmother's over the weekend and stopped by a comic book store near her, and he picked up a few trades, one of which he was so excited for and wanted to know if I read it, which I have not. And it is the latest iteration of Spider-Man that Chris and Ian, you both keep raving about.
Yep.
So he's actively seeking out the second volume of that. So
Nice.
I get to read the first volume. I was going to read it on the app, but I get to read it in a trade because he bought the trade. I said, I have an app. You can read all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, it's not the same. Okay, that's fine. I get it. Some stuff I got to read in paper, but he was very excited. So that was kind of cool to see him discover something very new that is getting rave reviews from a lot of people, including, like I mentioned, Chris and Ian, that I want to read, and he beat me to it and loved it.
Just to clarify, just real quick, since Julie asked in the chat here, and we'll get to Julie later, but she asked, "Is this the slot run we're talking about?" And no, this is Amazing Spider-Man we're discussing. So Zeb Wells' run.
Yeah.
I haven't actually started Dan Slott's new adjectiveless Spider-Man yet, but I plan on getting to it at some point since it's a return to Spider-Verse and all that jazz.
What's especially fun about the current issues of Amazing Spider-Man is they're going back to one of my all-time favorite villains, which is the Hobgoblin.
Yes,
but they're doing it in a way you don't really expect, and there's actually the Hobgoblin always should have mystery attached to the character.
Absolutely.
And they're returning to that theme again, which is really fun. So.
Yeah.
Completely agree there, Chris. I mean, if you want to do Hobgoblin right, you don't just bring back Roderick Kingsley or whatever. You bring in a person and just let that unfold. Let it do a slow burn over a couple of months.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Matt, you got a chance to read anything lately?
Well, I think the last time I did a Zoom with you guys, I was in the process of rereading the first run of Moon Knight.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I was in issue 9, and I think I've read an additional page of that issue since then. Truthfully, between the kids and work, that's basically. I mean, I could go on to some cases that I'm handling, or some of the research I've been doing on some stuff for cases.
Whatever,
but,
Batman.
Nothing in the comic book realm itself.
Fair enough. What I will go to is another thing that Julie brought up was a tweet that James Gunn made not too long ago that I will bring up here for those on the Zoom who haven't seen it.
Wow.
Specifically making plans. And it's an image of Kingdom Come. And initially she saw it quickly, so she thought it might have been Justice Society, but it is a lot more than that. And if that's one of the things that James Gunn is trying to do as head of DC now, for Warner Brothers Films, that is going to be interesting.
Yeah. Wow. I missed that.
Series rather than movie would be nice. I personally feel.
Agreed. Yes. There's a lot of story in that, and to relegate it to one movie. I mean, if you do maybe like 3 movies, but then we'd have to wait 10 years for the whole thing to wrap. I'd much rather see it as just
we're getting older. Let's do a series. I don't have 10 years to wait.
I agree. I agree entirely. Yeah.
10-year plan. I start to get a little nervous now since I've hit 50.
Oh my God. Yes. Let's Andor that shit. Agreed, Julie.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah. Chris,
I'll take Andor every day.
I got I was very excited to get this. So they released an omnibus of Ta-Nehisi Coates' entire run of Black Panther, which I had not finished. So I'm really excited to read this, because what he was doing with the character I found fairly enthralling. And I fell off the book when the Black Panther ends up stranded way out in space, and he's cut off from the Wakanda, and he's way out in the future, and the Wakanda's become this interstellar totalitarian empire. Really interesting stories. Looking forward to finishing that up, but a great run for the character.
You know, one of the things that I wanted to bring up, sort of comic news style, but also just in general on reading comics, is that last time we talked, Shane and I mentioned that we had upped ourselves to the latest tier of the DC Infinite, and since we did that, they made the pot just a little bit sweeter. They have added almost all of Vertigo and DC Black Label to the highest tier of DC Infinite now. So that includes all of Sandman, all 76 issues of Sandman. That includes Fables all the way, including the new stuff as it comes out. Plus, classics like Swamp Thing, and I'm not sure if Transmet is on there yet. I'll have to take a look for that, but and including all the Black Label stuff that's come out. So like all of like Scott Snyder's recent Black Label stuff. Three Jokers was recently added to there. Is
Sandman Mystery Theater on it?
I believe it is. I think I saw that when I did my search for Sandman earlier. Which also means probably stuff like Unwritten is more than likely on there. Like, there's so many amazing series that have been left out from DC Infinite because they only went DC. And it's great to see that for the extra money that I'm now paying for a month after release, that we also get all these other comics thrown in there as well. Really sweetens the pot. And I'm glad I upgraded now, because now I can catch up on Fables. Like I fell off of Fables when it was going. I was going to get it from the library. Now I could just read it on my tablet, and I will. So this is very, very good news for me in particular. Shane, are you doing research?
Yeah, I'm trying. It logged me out.
Darn it. Well, you know what? While Shane does his research, I will throw it to the crowd. If anybody wants to come on off mute and let us know some of the things that they've been reading lately,
please
raise your hand here in chat if you want, so we can know that we're that you got something that you want to add, and we can go ahead and take you off mute. If anybody's willing and able, that is. Actually,
just like in class, no one wants to raise their hand to be the first person to raise their hand.
You know what? I'm just gonna call on somebody because I see him there and I know him. Atch, come off mute, my friend. Let's. For one thing, I want to know a little bit about that Stargirl series, since you did manage to start it off. How's it been working for you?
Oh, it was. I mean, I wanted to mention to Shane, but I can't type fast enough to keep up with the chat. So by the time I type out a response, we're already 2 subjects later. But I wanted to say to Shane that I think you need to read the Stargirl Lost Children issue first, and then the New Golden Age. And I think it'll make sense to you. But no, I think that Johns does an admirable job of trying to, I think Murd mentioned something about this, how the time element of it. I mean, you can't possibly bring the JSA into a real time situation anymore without somehow being creative in your storytelling, and he's being very creative here. And he's also being very coy, so it's going to take some time to see how it works out, but I'm more excited about this than probably even Dark Crisis. But yeah, no, it's good stuff.
Yeah, I'm just glad that it has that old school feel to it. Because that's that there's a specific era of DC that really got me into it, and it is that like early 2000s kind of area. And if that's what they're bringing me back to, I'm there for it. And the beginning of the podcast, for that matter, because that was like right when when JSA was launching and all that jazz. Like, that's when CGS was just getting into the thick of it. So it's great to see books like that coming back in one form or another, and the lore being explored in new and interesting ways.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything?
I did also want to mention, and I didn't notice it until I actually got it out, because I think somebody said they just read issue 6. I think it was you, Ian.
Yeah.
Of Dark Crisis.
Yep.
I mean, as soon as I looked at it, I seen that's an homage to Crisis number 12.
Oh, absolutely.
So that was neat. And on the Marvel side, I've really been taking a deep dive into those 2000s big event stories. I've always kind of leaned more DC than Marvel, and the guys that I hang with on this, I'm always sort of the latecomer to Marvel lore. So I'm learning more about. I just read the Secret Invasion story from 2008, and anytime I really want to sound like I'm educated about Marvel, I just listen to an episode or a spotlight that Chris hosts. then I act like I really know what I'm talking about.
Well, you've got tons of you have about like 849 hours worth of content if you want to go into the spotlight.
and more will be on the way.
Yes, indeed. Yep. We had somebody asking us after the release of that classic Geek Speak if we would go back to the modern age of Fantastic Four, and that sounds like it would be a like research and a half right there, but
arduous task.
Yes.
the issue there, because Murd and I have talked about this periodic over the years. If I could just skip a portion of that, get to like the Mike Wieringo.
Oh yeah.
Was it Mark Waid? Right?
It was
Mark
Waid,
Waid.
yeah.
That stuff is brilliant, but leading up to that, it's a slog, man.
There's a lot of DeFalco you
It's
gotta get
It's
through.
a slog, and I like DeFalco in other areas, but the FF stuff was.
Well,
Just put a line in. There was the stuff DeFalco did, and then
I will take the burden from you at that point, Chris, because
Yes.
that's actually when I got into comics, and
Same here.
his run was the first run of FF I collected.
Oh,
And
Murd.
I think I own most of it.
Chris, I want to say, and I'm not 100% on this one, I'm pretty sure the first issue of Fantastic Four that I bought was the issue that Reed and Doom died.
Oh, it's so bad.
As I remember in the credits box, it said, "Congratulations, you've hit Comics Lotto."
Oh, yeah, that's right. Right into my bargain bins in my shop. That's where I
Right.
went for Comics
Yeah.
Lotto.
Unfortunately, that day the Mega Millions was at $5, so that's.
Now, I have some other topics I want to do first. When the listeners posted a bunch of suggestions on the supergroup page, there was a couple in particular. I'm like, you know what? I think I want to do that. So stay tuned.
Definitely,
Right.
definitely. Thanks for chiming in, Mike, and whenever you want to do so again, you know how to do it. So there we are. I will reach out to the crowd as well. The one and only Eric Nolan Wethington is joining us here, and I am going to bring him in to the conversation in one form or another, just because it's Eric Nolan Wethington, and we have to have that happen. So, Eric, thanks for joining us here, and let us know what's most recently been on your read list.
Well, hello, gentlemen, and various ne'er do wells.
Ahoy, ahoy!
I actually read this today. Hitomi #2.
Ah, nice.
It's a new series from Image, a samurai story. So what you got is your main character is your Hitomi. She's a little girl whose parents were killed by a African American, or not African American, but an African transplant to Japan, who was a samurai, a very violent samurai. He killed her family during a war.
Mm-hmm.
So she's seeking revenge. She wants to grow up to be a samurai, and she happens upon this same samurai, except he's kind of washed up. He's a Ronin, traveling. He wants to go home. So he's doing lousy jobs to try to pick up whatever coin he can, and she convinces him to train her, and he doesn't know that he killed her family. So, but he knows her family was killed by a samurai.
Mm.
So it's interesting. Two issues in. The artwork, as you can tell, the interior artwork is very nice. It's very reminiscent of the old feudal Japanese style of painting.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she's an Italian artist. But yeah, it's quite good. I like it quite a bit. It's kind of, in a weird way, you kind of a lone wolf and cub vibe, because you got the kind of a mentor and a young kid. But
Sure,
she's a little bit older than that. But similar kind of vibe, but different as well. Recommended. What else have I been reading? Human Target.
Oh,
very good.
Human Target is very much on the radar of this podcast.
Oh, I know.
Sheer
There was one
mastery.
thing I had a problem with, but I think they're going to resolve it in a favorable way. So I'm hoping that turns out okay. I have not yet started reading. Everyone's been mentioning all his other miniseries, but Tom also has a series with Image with a French artist named Ella Chantier called Love Everlasting.
Yes.
So good.
I have not yet started it. I'm waiting because I'm waiting for the first arc to finish. So I'm going to read all 6 issues together. So I'm anxiously awaiting that to wrap up. I picked up Trad Moore's Doctor Strange.
Okay.
Looking forward to that.
Very nice.
He's really gone completely Peter Max here for this.
Something I'll also say is Tom King stuff. I don't know why, and I think it's the same for quite a few of us. It reads better in chunks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I would rather sit down for 6 issues and read them through.
I think that's the case, except for Mr. Miracle. I think Mr. Miracle was. Mr. Miracle was written in a kind of a single issue format in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with otherwise. I'd rather read them in chunks, big chunks. Yeah.
He's very like Netflixable comics, like it, like you know how they want you to binge. Like that's exactly how I feel. Almost every single thing Tom King I read in trade for that very reason. But I obviously your mileage may vary one way or the other.
Human Target I think works both ways. I think will work both ways quite well.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's got a really nice, cliffhanger at every nice little stopping point at every issue because it's each issue is a day, so it's a kind of a natural. It fits the monthly format kind of more naturally. I think it's
nice.
It works pretty well.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. Well, Eric, thank you very much for joining us here. You
no
are
problem.
an invaluable resource to the show.
I do what I can.
And much appreciated, my friend.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see you guys out in the wild at some point because finally did my first convention in a while last year.
Nice.
Maybe we'll be back in New York next year. Who knows?
That would be great. I'll be there. So that would be wonderful to chat up with you for a little bit there. Absolutely.
All right.
Fantastic. Okay. Sue, I'm gonna take you out of spotlight here for a minute. Now I won't go into spoilers because obviously I don't know how many people on this call have or have not seen Wakanda Forever, but I would like to give my thoughts on the movie.
Yes.
Just to do that. And I will stay spoiler free just in case there's anybody who's been waiting for Disney Plus. So I completely understand that. I listened to your guys' episode. Great to see you guys in studio for that one. Hear you guys in studio for that one. But it was for that matter, I'm glad that you guys saw it at that great theater that we saw Black Widow at because I love that place. The Fox Theater is awesome.
I love that theater.
Really, really nice. Was it a packed house?
It was pretty full that night.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Didn't notice any empty seats.
Nice.
Oh.
Nice. And Mr. Nebulous Voice was with you as well, correct? Mr. Pantsy.
He showed up at the theater, said hello, and then met us at the studio.
Oh, okay.
He was like a reassuring, like supernatural shade flitting in and out of reality in the studio.
Ben came with us to watch the movie, and then he was going to come to the studio to record, but he really felt like crap from being exhausted that week, so he went home and slept.
Nice. Lennon, I did not see Wakanda Forever in 3D. I haven't seen a movie in 3D in 10 years, I feel like. And I think it was only because that was the only showing that was available at the time. It was one of the Marvel movies. I don't even remember which one. It might have even been Age of Ultron, I think, where I wanted to see it opening weekend, and the only one that made sense was the 3D showing. I may go see Avatar, which I believe is the sequel to Wakanda Forever, in 3D when it comes out. But I'll see about that. I just want to add to my sentiments, gentlemen, that I love the movie. I think that I do agree with Murd a little bit that it may have been maybe 10 minutes too long. That there could have been like a little bit that could have been trimmed out of it here and there. But overall, it's a memorable piece. It's a touching piece. It's an excellent tribute to Chadwick Boseman. Seeing the intro, I mean, not that big a spoiler since he's been in all the trailers. Seeing the introduction of Namor and the way that they did it, even if he wasn't an Atlantean, I know, was pretty close to my Namor. You know, it was a regal presence that you could tell had some harsh notes to him, but at the same time also had a heart and a personality.
And a nose ring.
And had a nose ring and had those
In 3D, as Kurt Matilda pointed
in
out.
3D. I hope they had the nose ring exactly like coming directly out of you and into the screen. And whenever he would move his head, I hope that those ear things would also just
Wiggle slightly.
Exactly. But I think that it was very hard to pull off what they achieved with this movie. With the death of a major actor, they could have went one of two ways. They could have recast. They could have just barrel forward. They decided to barrel forward, and they gave us a movie that was worthy of the name Black Panther in a lot of different ways.
And not only that, Ian, they as you alluded, what I think made this movie so impressive for me was that they didn't run away from the idea of grief.
Yes.
The whole movie is exploring the consequences of the loss of the character. And as we mentioned in our review, the actors themselves were channeling their real life grief into those performances, which I think makes the movie just on another level than most of the other. I mean, how many superhero films deal with grief?
Oh, absolutely.
Like that. Like I think it's a special piece of work. And to go back again, I was raving about Namor in the review because, and again, you alluded to it as well. And this is what I thought what they got so well with the character was that I found him extremely intimidating.
Yeah.
And he should be. He shouldn't just be like, the shiny superhero, because he's not. He's a king and he has interests and agenda. And that may not always suit the agenda of the surface world or Wakanda or wherever else. Yeah. And I was really happy with the actor's performance.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he was terrifying at times.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I cannot wait to see his smoldering gaze upon a blonde, invisible woman at some point in the near future, which I'm sure will happen come 2 or 3 movies down the line.
They've got to do that. And if they do it well, it's going to be just a sheer delight.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm trying to stay as spoiler free as possible here, just for the sake of the Zoom. But I will also say that not every connecting piece worked for me. That some of the Marvel adjacent characters that were included in the movie.
Okay, you're talking
Contessa. Yeah, I mean, Contessa shows up. Contessa's a character that's been introduced before. She was bound to show up in this, and she did. I like Julia Louis-Dreyfus. I don't know what was up with her hair in this one. It looked weird.
Val always has those streaks in the comics. I guess they were trying to refer to that.
But at the same time, it looked way more like a wig this time around, which it very well may have been. But I don't know. Just her scenes felt like the most forced scenes in the entire movie.
I was going to say her scenes, and even any that what's his name? Ross were in. Yeah. They seemed very forced into the story.
Well, as we've talked about before, and part of this just because they don't have the time. The character of Ross really hasn't been given his due and been, I think, captured properly yet. But we have to see what they do with that. But that's just a matter of screen time. Like they're not going to have the Christopher Priest Ross who was developed over 50 comic issues and who was hilarious. So. We just to see what they do with it.
Yeah, David Branning in the chat here says, and that's so important. I love it when you can almost see yourself agreeing with the villain's point of view. Makes the conflict so much more compelling. And that is absolutely what they pulled off in this, and what they pulled off in a bunch of the most recent movies. Like after years of feeling like the villains were kind of disposable, it's been less so. I feel like for the most part. And
the best Marvel villains, Magneto, for example, you should be able to be like, kind of see what they're coming from, and that makes them all the more compelling and engaging. Yeah. So I think that's only fitting.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And Frankie swears I'd probably give it about like a 4.5 out of 5. I think it was near perfect for what I wanted it to be. I'm kind of curious where we go from here, both for the character of Black Panther and for the MCU in general, because we don't really know. from the trailers of Quantum Mania, shit's about to get real. And what's next after that?
Disney Cruise Lines.
Yes, yes, Disney Cruise Lines in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's absolutely what's next up, Julie. I agree with you.
Well, I would
And
say
Simon
Ian,
Savage retires from the Navy, and that's what he does.
Yes.
I would say, Ian, that the movie, without again giving anything away, it provides an opportunity to further explore the geopolitics of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
Which they did, they've done very effectively in different comics over the years, and they've really left it open for them to do that because, again, without giving anything away, when the movie ends, Wakanda is in a certain position.
Yes.
And that position is potentially enormously problematic and dangerous.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I mean, I hope that they return to that. I mean, I would think they would because they left such obvious great plot threads to really pick up there.
Kurt in the chat says Atlantis attacks, and I could very well see that being a possibility.
And if they bring in a certain Latvian,
yes,
that will only further enhance those things.
Well, and in the end, Namor got exactly what he wanted, which was them as allies to kind of manipulate them as he sees fit down the road.
Mm-hmm. Although, as I posted into the Comic Geek Speak supergroup earlier today, specifically for you, Chris, remember that it's only doom scrolling if it happens in Latveria under the watchful eye of Doom himself. Otherwise, it's just sparkling, "Damn you, Richards!"
Well, magnificent. To piggyback on that, when Doom comes in, I really hope they don't shy away from the egomania. Like, they have to show him talking like that because, like, General Douglas MacArthur, who was a real-life egomaniac, would actually speak about himself seriously in the third person when conversing with other army officers and so forth.
I never knew that.
So, yes, the guy had the ego the size of the moon. And they got to show, Doom's greatest strength and his weakness is that insane ego.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
I hope they thread that properly.
David Branning had. I'm going to bring you into spotlight real quick because I saw what you were holding up. So please, by all means, bring that up for us one more time here. Yes, interlude.
That's a classic issue, right
Doom.
there.
Oh
the
my
burn
God.
run.
Yep.
That's good stuff.
Absolutely.
That's good stuff.
Yep. And David, you want to take yourself off mute for a minute?
Absolutely. Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Welcome.
Doing great.
Did you see the movie? What, if so, what were your thoughts?
I did. I really enjoyed it. I think it's the strongest Marvel movie in quite a while. I feel like Phase 4 it's been uneven, I would say.
Yeah.
Some things I really thought were going to be great weren't that great.
Yeah.
But this looked like it was going to be great, and I thought it was great.
Good. Yeah. I while I do appreciate some of the other Phase 4 movies more than other cast members, specifically Thor: Love and Thunder, I will agree that this is, of the Phase 4 movies.
I want to watch Airplane. I'll watch Airplane. Peter was right on the money about that. Holy mackerel.
You know what? I didn't hate Love and Thunder as much. I finally just watched it at home because I refused to go see it in the theater. But I didn't actually end up hating it as much as I thought I would. I'm not sure why. Maybe I just had to be in the right mood to see it.
That could very well be it. That could very well be it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
I could watch Airplane. I didn't hate it either. I mean, I did enjoy it. I did have a good time, but definitely not what I was expecting.
Yeah. I didn't hate it. Just don't do it again.
It was what I was expecting.
I mean, the very first Thor is one of my all-time favorite Marvel movies, and I wish they had just kept that tone, that regal kind of majestic tone that movie had.
Yeah.
Well, they're afraid of it. They're afraid of the character, basically.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like, yeah.
And as I said when we did the review, because I didn't hate the movie, I just didn't care for it that much. At the end, when he is cradling a dying Jane and he's talking to Gore and saying, like, look, you go do what you need to do. He was Thor. Like, you felt the majesty of the character. And you can still have the humor because Hemsworth has great comedic chops. But it was like just one bad joke, and then like the whole Zeus, like, come on, like, I fell asleep. The first Marvel movie I fell asleep on was that movie.
I will point out yet again that that there are alternate takes, there's alternate scenes of what the Zeus sting could have been. on YouTube. That if you want to search that down, you can. And it feels like that may have been the better direction that they could have gone, and they decided to go goofy. I will agree that is one of my least favorite parts of the entire movie, even if I was laughing. So,
Well, it'll be interesting to see how they use Hercules.
Yes,
because he and Thor have such a rich and fun rivalry.
Hercules.
I was thinking that, Ian.
Thanks for coming off mic, David. We appreciate it.
You guys are awesome. Thanks for letting me participate.
Oh, no,
thank you.
please,
Thank you.
by all means. Yep. Okay, let me remove from Spotlight there. There we go. Matt, let me bring you back. There we go. Okay. Anybody get a chance to watch Wednesday yet?
I did.
No.
I watched the first episode while I was eating dinner tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
It's great.
I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. I thought it was a lot of fun to watch. A little bit more horrific than I thought it would be, but it was really well done.
It has the spirit and style of Addams Family, and not even just the Addams Family movies, but
No, it goes back to the comic strips.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And Louis Guzman, I know there was kind of a flap among certain people about his casting as Gomez, but he looks the
he
way
looks like
Charles
Gomez.
Adams used to draw that character.
Yes,
Absolutely.
And Catherine Zeta-Jones as Morticia is dead on. She's perfect as the role. What were we gonna say, Matt?
I was gonna say, I heard it's a kind of riff off of Buffy type of thing, but it's gonna be kind of
it's
not necessarily a vampire slayer, but kind of in that same each episode, she's kind of going up against a monster.
And that's the part that I'm like okay with, but in order to have the series, you have to do something. Yeah, I mean, when they introduce the school that she goes to, it's a little bit Hogwartsy that way, and I'm like, okay, but everything else about it is so well done, and she plays the character fantastically.
She does.
Just deadpan, dead on, creepy enough that you just smirk and laugh about it a little bit because she really is Wednesday Addams.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Does a great job.
And just the general aesthetic of the show. I mean, I know it's Tim Burton, so obviously there's I've been in the Burton mood since we did our Beetlejuice retro movie review, and this filled that hole nicely because I haven't been the biggest fan of his most recent stuff. But this was the most Burton-y Burton that we've gotten in a while. And it felt like he was working with a source that he actually really, truly enjoyed, and that probably is half the reason why it was as good as it was. But yeah, it's good.
yeah, it's really well done.
I was just going to say that the closest comparison, Matt, just because you mentioned Buffy, I'd actually say the closest comparison is actually the Sabrina show that Netflix did. It has a very similar personality to that, a little less devil worshipy and a little bit more just spooky, creepy.
And they throw in a couple little Easter eggs. Like at one point, she says something like, somebody says creepy and she says kooky, or he says kooky and she says creepy. They're like playing on the creepy and the kooky. It was really enjoyable.
Yep.
Has anyone checked out the 2 episodes of Willow that dropped this morning or last night?
No, I forgot that dropped. No, man,
that's right.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance yet.
At least the first episode.
Yeah.
Have we all finished She-Hulk?
Not all.
No, Adam did not.
No.
I only watched the Daredevil episodes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Before the Super Zoom began, a couple of these gentlemen were kind enough to spoil another major plot point in that for me. But yeah, I've gotten only as far as episode 3, but I'm just loving almost every single second of what I've seen so far.
I figured you would.
Oh, yeah, I've got the intro of the Wrecking Crew. That was the first. That was like the end of the last episode I saw, and it was the first, like even close to a misstep that I saw in the series.
Murd, just wait.
Oh, they get better.
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Can I get a reverse spoiler in? Because
how could I have doubted?
Going back to our comic talk episode that we had with Paul, and Paul said, not a spoiler, but Awesome Andy isn't in it. I just read through issue 5 of the new She-Hulk series. Up until then, I'd only read the first 2 issues, and I want to tell you, Awesome Andy's back, baby. Awesome Andy is the secretary at Jennifer's new law firm that's being run by Mallory Book. And he's got his memories back. He's the Awesome Andy that we loved from Dan Slott's era on the book. And it's this new series. Jack of Hearts is still the main through point, but
I'm as excited about that as you are, Ian.
It's great on that level. But my favorite bit is she gets the job, and Mallory Book is like, "Look, we don't want any superhero cases. You know, let's get non-superhero cases. Okay, sure. Of course, who's the first person who calls her? The Thing, because while he was walking Lockjaw, he was walking Lockjaw without a leash. And he winds up getting
what could possibly go wrong?
Exactly. He winds up getting a summons for it because he forgot about the summons because he was off in space and then came back, and now he wants to try to beat the ticket. So it's just going from there.
Murray, one thing I would say about the show without spoiling is that, and I give Marvel credit, they don't shy away from what makes the Shield character so fun and fascinating in the comic world.
Mm-hmm.
And there are characters who appear, you're like, I can't believe in some of the characters. Again, I mean this in the best possible way.
Yeah.
And like, it's a deep dive, and I give them real props for it.
Yep. I've had only 2 of those spoiled for me so far, but it's kind of whet my appetite to see what other C-listers they've dug up.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I have one more spoiler for you.
Didn't see it coming this time, Ian. You got me.
Play it, baby. Oh, there it is. I feel better.
Yes,
Zoom
indeed.
air harp.
Yep. It is indeed time once again for Muddle the Murdered. Those of you on the Super Zoom who have not gotten to see Air Harp in person, you got it, baby.
It's a lot of hands and wiggling.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And Murd is here to explain more on how you may have a chance to Muddle the Murd.
That's right. Muddle the Murd is comic trivia, my friends. And it's also one of the best chances outside of occasions like for those of you listening at home to participate in this podcast of ours. If you would like to try to muddle the Murd, you need to come up with 3 comics trivia questions, a Marvel question, a DC question, and a question about some third publisher's comics. They also have to break down chronologically to 1 question about comics pre-1970, 1 about comics published between 1970 and 2000 inclusive, and 1 question about comics post-2000. Come up with those questions. Don't forget to include the answers. You need to type them into an email addressed to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com with Muddle the Murd in the subject line. In coming up with your questions, try not to make them too obscure or granular. Just try to focus on the meat of like a plot, character, theme, and that sort of thing. Just no minor picayune background details. And don't ask questions about advertising and letters, columns, and things like that. And then send them in where our webmaster and producer Ian will find them, and he will ask them to me, and if I fail to answer even one of them correctly, if I get all 3 of them wrong, you will have won a fantastic prize.
Exactly.
And the prize that we have on offer tonight for this special occasion, this is the first time this has been offered on this show. It's a prize that was put up by our very own Chris Eberly. It was sent to me via the U.S. mail in Stone Harbor a couple of months ago. It is this hardcover I hold in my hands right now, a Reckless book, The Ghost in You.
Ooh.
By Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips, the legendary pulp-flavored creative team. Just feels like a tagline from a Blueberry commercial. About the ghost in you. But yes, it is a fine piece of comic storytelling. Chris, since you put up the prize, do you have anything else you'd like to say about this, the 4th in the Reckless series?
Just that, thank you, Bert. Just that, I mean, ideally you want to read them all to get the full flavor of the characters, but you can just read this story and become fully engaged.
Fair enough. All right, well, the first person to attempt to get this prize as theirs is Robert Christensen. And Robert Christensen has these words to say, and now you know we've made it to 2022 in our queue, as he says, hello and Happy New Year, Ian. Close but no cigar. Please kindly accept my latest attempt to muddle the murd in the new year. I hope all is well with the geeks and everyone is staying healthy and safe this winter season. He at least got that part accurate to where we are in the seasons at this particular moment. Now on to the questions. We begin with DC pre-1970.
Okay.
This question takes us back to the very beginning. Action Comics #1, published in 1938.
Well, there are some nitpickers who would probably point to something like, Detective #1 or like
Dr. Occult?
like New Fun #6, something like that. But anyway, close enough.
This question takes us back to almost the very beginning. Action Comics #1, published in 1938. The first page of this issue is dedicated to Superman's origin story. During a specific breakdown of Clark Kent's amazing strength, what creatures are used as examples in order to explain his abilities?
Wow. I'll be digging out my Millennium Edition here. I'm going to say ants.
Okay, so that is one of the correct answers.
How many answers are there?
There are two. There is one. There is one more animal that is listed. If you get that second one, then you get it all. I am actually going to straight up. He didn't specify that in that, so I am going to count this as a yes. But I would like to see if you get the second.
Okay. Creatures that can lift many times their own weight.
Oh, you know what? He did say what creatures. So yes, let's get that second one right, and then you got it all. So I'm giving it to him. I'm giving it to him on this one. I promise.
All right. Well, boy. Yeah, I'm having a hard time thinking of something else that's as good an example as an ant. So I'm just going to say a creature known for its physical strength and say elephant.
Okay, so the answer, the lowly ant can support weights hundreds of times its own. The grasshopper.
Okay. Yes, I actually was thinking of grasshoppers, where they're leaping tall blades of grass with a single bound.
Yep. The grasshopper leaps what to man would be the space of several city blocks.
Okay, that's a very Aesopian answer then. Grasshopper and ants.
Yep. All right, let's move it over to Marvel, 1970 to 2000. This question takes us back to the official handbook of the Marvel Universe Deluxe Edition.
Oh, all right, which is, I'm continuing to work my way through that as part of my pre-work morning ritual.
Nice.
I get an entry per day. I'm up to the late H's.
Which began in 1985. The question for you is, pause for dramatic effect. It's written in there. Of all the wraparound covers drawn by the master known as John Byrne, how many issues did the body of Reed Richards expand across?
Oof.
Man.
Good question.
That's quite a deep cut. I've never actually tried laying all the issues end to end to see this. I know a poster must have been made at some point, but all right. How far would the master John Byrne have felt like taking this back in 1985? Because it's a magic number, I will say 3.
Any guesses from the Peanut Gallery or from the Zoom?
I'm going to say
I was going
Good, Jane.
17.
I was going to say 6.
You can say 1. It's a trick question.
So the correct answer is 9.
Ooh, wow.
Almost.
Yeah. A truly fantastic 9 issues, beginning with his right foot in front of Loki on the cover of issue 7, and ending with his right hand grasping the crowbar of the Wrecker on the back cover of issue 15.
Man, I would never have gone that high.
Wow. All right. We are one away here.
For all the marbles.
For all the marbles and all the Ed Brubakers. Image to post 2000. In the historic 300th issue of Spawn, Al Simmons continues his vendetta against both heaven and hell. To what country does he travel to in order to confront the army of enemies that have been producing toxic chemicals and confront the shocking mastermind behind the evil schemes?
To what country? Well, A lot of possible answers here. Of course, because I'm basically just picking a country out of the air. Albania. I don't know.
Boom, baby!
Are you serious?
Oh my God!
That's classic Murd. It was classic Murd.
That's
Oh
one of the
my
biggest yanks of my
God.
career.
Wow!
It was Albanian Independence Day 2 days ago. You know that? Years free of the Ottoman Empire.
Wow! So I had a feeling
Holy
that
mackerel.
I was gonna say that if you got it wrong, I was gonna say go for part of his name as the beginning of the country.
Oh, right.
And
Albania.
yeah,
right.
it is indeed Albania.
Wow.
Wow.
I can remember the last time I did a yank like this. I think it was when, Greg somebody. He was like the OG Marvel man on the old forums, and he put together a little GIF of like Murd. It was an image of me. Well, it was an image of the running back for the Minnesota Vikings who won a playoff game. Back in 2017, during when the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, and then he had another gif of himself, which was Kirk yelling "Khan" to express his frustration at me doing that little rush for the end zone.
Jeez.
Oh
I think you
my
got a tooth
God.
with that ass pull, though.
Mother Christensen, I feel like I ought to apologize to you for that.
Hey, what better night than this to have a down to the wire moment with Muddle the Murdered?
Unbelievable.
Robert, excellent questions.
Yep.
Excellent
They really
questions.
were.
Yep.
Wow.
And he does add at the end that's all for this time around. Thank you for all the efforts you put in and keeping the podcast alive. It is one of the biggest, brightest parts of my week when I see a new episode drop. Might I request an update on Pants? He's still around, and you can listen to to many an episode of recent memory to hear some more pantaloonies. So excellent, Robert Christensen. Thank you, sir.
Still can't believe you pulled that out of nowhere.
Wow.
And I thank you, Robert, for giving me new appreciation for that tapestry of Marvel characters that Byrne put together back in 1985. That
Absolutely.
actually stretched out Richards for 9 covers.
Wow. That is something else. All right. I am going to bring in Ms. Julie Benson if she does not mind, because she is on this call.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay.
And-
I have no idea. I just texted Pants. I asked him where he is.
First off, thank you so much for joining us for this, Julie. It's always great to see your face.
I'm so thrilled.
And I just wanted to congratulate you for one thing on the Emmy nomination.
Yes.
For Star Trek
Didn't
Prodigy.
know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yep.
awesome.
Yep. It's
Yes. Thank you.
I was
actually
thrilled
was
to see it.
Co-producer on that, so
Yep.
I am
I'll be going to the
loving-
Emmys on the 11th.
Loving Prodigy. It is fantastic.
Yeah.
Fun.
I'm so glad, Shane.
I'm
awesome.
right there with them. I'm pretty much up to date. I just watched last week's episode a couple days ago, and it's just so great to see something that is just. You could tell the love of Star Trek is just so much there in every single bone, and it's Voyager specific. Like it fills that Voyager hole that like a few other shows have before, and just all the Janeway moments are great. It's such a good show.
Yeah.
Thank you, you guys. That means a lot coming from you. It was a group effort, obviously. That entire writers' room was so excited to just break the seal on something new for kids, but also make it, I'll use the term Disney uses, 4 quadrants, so your family can sit and watch it. Yeah, my sister Shauna is a huge Trekkie, has been her entire life, and so it was pretty interesting to watch her just get to geek out every day and go, oh, what if we bring Billy Campbell back? What if we? So, but yeah, the Hagemans ran that show. It was really good stuff, and it's so interesting. By the way, can everyone hear me?
Yeah. We can hear you.
Okay. It was so interesting to watch that process because I hadn't done animation before. And so we were working in this vacuum of just imagining the characters as we picture them. And we didn't get to see a bit of animation until almost right when we left the writer's room. So I'm watching it fresh with everyone else. I'm seeing these for the first time as well, which is insane.
That's so cool.
Wow.
Man.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how animation could work that way sometimes, where like you're watching it at the end with everybody else, because obviously it takes so much time and effort to put that animation together. Yeah.
But it's there. It's the show we wrote. So and they're always bringing something new and exciting to it. So it's really fascinating. And yeah, the animation on that show is ridiculous. I don't know how they do it. It's magic to me.
It really
did you ever, when you're watching an episode, you go, oh my God, that's not how I imagined it, but it looks awesome? Something that you wrote?
Always.
That's cool.
Yeah, we had these sort of vine creatures, I think, in episode 4 and 5, the planet that was sort of eating them. And in the room, we sort of wrote this vine monster, but we had no idea what it was going to look like. And they just made it look beautiful. And the fire effects, it's really cool. And the episode on this Thursday, Preludes, I think is going to be one of my favorites. The entire room wrote the episode. We all took chunks, and it's sort of backstory on all of the kids. Oh. And if they do it the way we were hoping in the room, I think it's going to be a tearjerker. So I'm excited.
That's cool.
I think my favorite episode so far has been Time Amok. Not only just for the Star Trek pun of the name alone, but just in general, like the story of that one just really resonated with me in a lot of different ways. So it's every episode just makes me happy.
That one was fun to break in the room. Shauna and I had charts on the whiteboard where we're like, okay, so if the time is this, and like Shauna was going through the whole thing, and Nikhil wrote that episode. It was fantastic. But yeah, the puns were the fun part of coming up with the titles for sure. That was definitely the old chuckle knuckle came out, and with that.
Shocking.
But I have to thank Pants, because Pants went to the New York Comic Con where they were giving away these little Murphs, and we didn't get any from the show because we have been off the show for a while now, over a year or two. And so he went and he collected one for Shauna and I. Waited in a line. I think he was first in line, got us some Murphs and mailed them to us. So it was really sweet of him.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Watching Murph's kind of like evolution over the season as well has been something else. Like he goes from being like the mascot character to actually having like a personality and like a whole like existence, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I think Thursday night's episode is going to be an eye opener for that as well.
Okay.
I guess, do they drop Wednesday at midnight? They drop at midnight like tonight, and then I don't end up getting to watch it until sometime Thursday. I can't stay up that late anymore. I'm an old person, so. But Murph, I got to name. I will take credit for that because we had this amazing driver in Vancouver when we worked on the 100, and his name was Mike Murphy. He since passed away, I think, last year, and we called him Murph, and he was just the sweetest person. And so we were thinking up names. It was just a name that stuck with me, and it was in my heart. So, and it works. Groot, Murph, all these sort of one word.
Oh, that's great.
Features. So
and now
thanks you guys.
Oh yeah, no. Now I feel like I get a little bit of inside information that I didn't know before. So there we go.
Heck yeah.
What else do I have? I'll spill some dirt after we stop recording.
Okay, cool. Just out of curiosity, I mean, you get a chance to read any comics lately, or I mean, I know you're a busy lady.
I have taken a sabbatical from comics. I think I'm kind of pantsing it a little bit.
Okay.
Where
that is the official term for it, by the way. Like,
he's a verb now.
I'm pantsing it. Honestly, it's been because I fell so far behind when I was working on the show that I get that like anxiety of I don't even know where to pick back up again. I get weirded out. So I kind of just stop all cold turkey. But I am literally writing down every issue and things everyone's mentioning, so I can kind of get back in the swing of things. I think that would be good. And I've been waiting for Tom King's Human Target to sort of wrap into a trade as well, because I think I'd prefer to read it that way. Yeah. So.
I will definitely double dip. I mean, the issue by issue is beautifully presented, but I can't imagine what a trade dress is going to look like for that.
Oh my gosh.
It's just gorgeous.
Well, they did a hardcover of the first 6 issues, and that's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the whole 12.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm going to get all 12. Yep, same here. Yep. And for that matter, once you do get some of those Fantastic Four suggestions in there, I know one of them was the Byrne run, and I mean all those spotlights that CGS did back in the day of Fantastic Four, like you're going to get overwhelmed with the amount of Fantastic Four history that's just going to get.
What's crazy is I've heard those episodes, so I know the episodes. they're so long ago that I have to go back and it's
Yep.
going to be like homework research. Yeah, going deep diving. I just sort of want to know where Murd's at in his time bubble of years. Like, are we up to 2002? Where are we at?
We're just the other side of Infinite Crisis, Julie.
Ooh.
I'm up to the realm of CGS. I've read up to my involvement on the show.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Time has looped back around to the beginning.
We're gonna. If you start listening to those episodes now, you're gonna hear a ghostly voice in the background being like, "Can anybody hear me?"
Yeah, I'm like the after images of Barry Allen in Crisis. Have to save the world.
Oh my god! Awesome.
Yeah, you were right. You were right. It was him all along. You were right.
The way Mike Atchison just put it in the chat here. Murd, are you gaining ground or losing ground? That's a
Losing every day, Mike. It's just I read 9 months worth of comics in a year, so every year it's just falling a little bit further behind. And I haven't even gotten up to the point where I'm attending conventions regularly back in the mid to late 2000s and buying huge stacks of comics, which I promptly put into the master pile, and it's just going to back me up even further. But
See, I feel better that I have these subscriptions to Marvel and DC because I don't feel as behind, and I stopped buying as many regular comics. So now it's just open to me whenever I want to read it. I don't get quite as anxious about being behind.
yeah.
I wish I had that.
Digital helps, honestly, for me, because if I don't see the giant pile directly next to me, then I'm like, all right, I can read this. But
I actually have read something. I went back and reread my Disco Dazzlers.
Oh, nice.
I pulled those out because I really want to make a Marvel series of Disco Dazzlers. So I wrote a one-pager about it. So now Marvel call me because I have a pitch.
Yeah.
2 words. Jennifer Coolidge.
Ooh. Oh my
Delicious.
god. Yeah, and White Lotus has been amazing, by the way. Speaking of Jennifer Coolidge.
2 more words. Taylor Swift, obviously.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. Awesome, Julie. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Julie.
Just
Thank
great
you.
catching up with you, and we'll have to have you on for a full episode sometime soon, so we can just.
Yeah.
And thanks for the Gideon cameo, by the way. I was just nice to know our boy's still around. The pink paw is still strong.
Aw,
Yes, he misses all of you.
yes, awesome. Alrighty. Anybody else from the Peanut Gallery wanna chime in? Any questions you might have for us, or anything you've been reading lately that you may want to come off mute to discuss? Let us know. If not, then I am gonna go into the well of questions that we have from our last Q&A that we never got to on the Facebook. So.
Ian Kurt raised his hand.
Yes,
Ah,
the floor
yes.
acknowledges Kurt Matilla.
Yes, indeed. The 4 acknowledges him. The 4 brings him into the spotlight. And Kurt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, fellas. Can you hear me okay?
We can indeed.
Yes, loud and clear.
It's good. It's weird communicating with the podcast I've been listening to since 2009. It's like suddenly seeing yourself on an episode of Seinfeld. Like, no, I just wanted to just say my reading pile's been really well curated, thanks to you guys. That Namor series was spectacular. The sort of the old man Namor thing you guys were talking about, I thought that was really good. That Gotham City Year One, the Tom King thing, good lord, that was like noir at its finest, and it's just a good mood. And I forgot which one you guys said about the Ram v Batman. I think it was either Detective or Batman. I forgot which one he's writing.
I think it's Detective, yeah.
The Detective, yeah. Holy, just the atmosphere in that thing and the sort of weird H.P. Lovecraft vibe to it is just spectacular. And so I just want to say thanks for like Julie, I've kind of fallen behind in my reading at times too, and so it's weird. It's like you guys always debated about is it bad to renumber comics? Should you just always have new number ones? And I don't know, if you take about 5 months sabbatical and you go back, you're like, I don't know where to start. And it is sort of weird that happens. But I also wanted to say I'm with you guys on Wakanda Forever. I actually thought it was better than the first Black Panther. I may be alone on that, but I felt like Black Panther, as great as it was kind of coming on the heels of that phase of Marvel where they kind of had that formula down.
Yeah.
And there was something sort of very familiar. It was definitely kind of Iron Man-y and stuff. It wasn't bad. It was starting to have echoes of familiarity. And man, once you got to Wakanda Forever, it's like, ooh, this is a whole other thing. And actually, I realized I saw Black Panther with Pants and Julie.
Yeah.
It's very strange.
Did we? Oh wow!
Arclight Theater in Hollywood, California. A really great theater where it is no longer there though. So hopefully they'll reopen that stuff too. But the recent with the cosmic characters. It kind of made me want to go back into the archives of CGS. And I just have one question. Are there still tickets for Super Show?
Yes.
I'd really like to get a Super Show ticket.
The only
access to a time machine, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can give you a ticket to it. However, the building is not there anymore, so you may have trouble.
The building's gone?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that one's been torn down.
We tore that bitch down.
Holy shit! Yeah. That in episode 300, like I was like,
yes,
you guys really knew how to pimp those things. Wow, look at that.
With a little Katie Cook Jawa on it. Yeah,
I love it.
Well, thanks, guys, and boy, oh boy, who do you have to know to get another Time Bubble episode recorded? That's what I know that Murd, you're very busy, and incidentally, I'm going to send a Muddle the Murdered, but I don't think anyone should ask him questions that are outside the time bubble. It's not fair. The man hasn't caught up to that. Like you're asking him to predict the future. He can't predict it. He can do a lot of things. He can't predict the future or see stories of the future. So
I'm calling it a handicap, Kurt.
All right. It's your show. It's your hill of beans. But man, oh man, I feel like I don't know. You should not be asking outside the bubble.
Kurt,
somehow he still does pretty good.
Not to talk out of hand, but once Murd is settled back home, there should be a time bubble coming, and it might have a guest. That's all I'm saying.
I think the co-pilot seat will be occupied for the next trip we take in the time bubble.
It's been a long time since there was a co-pilot.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. Cool. I think Jamie might have been the last one. Kind of thing.
You might be right, actually. Yeah.
Good luck to whoever that co-pilot is then.
Yeah. I'll try not to crash the plane. Let's put it that way. Kurt, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, great. I want to get Ralph in here because Ralph is one of our longtime friends of the show and has been to events. He's hosted people. He's done everything over the years, and I want to at least get him on here at one point or another. Ralph, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. It's been an interesting year, a lot of change, moving, career changes, so tough to keep up with comics. I feel like I'm the Murd of the Marvel Universe. I just caught up with last year's Spider-Man movie and Doctor Strange, so I got my own time bubble going here.
Now, you'd be the Murd of the Marvel Universe if you just saw Spider-Man 3.
And I saw first episode of She-Hulk, loved it, but just haven't had the time to get back to the rest of it. So it's tough keeping up. When I hear you guys talk about everything you've seen and read, I don't know where you guys have the time, and I don't have kids. So
I sleep 5 hours a night. That's about it.
I try to do a little reading here and there. Human Target, I liked. Before that, Tom King's Supergirl. That's about the only DC I've been catching. Although you guys are showing me stuff tonight, it's like, let's go out and get some more Justice Society. So some exciting things to look at. I've been trying to keep up with the Captain America books, which are usually my thing. They relaunched them this past year, and they've been okay. So I'm giving the chance for the creators to kind of hit their stride and make their mark, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter how far you fall behind. There's always something to read, and I think that that's something that I've had to also say to myself a couple of times. Like, if I don't actually get around to reading a specific run of the book, but I hear the next one's great, I could get to that other one at some other time. I didn't have to read what came before Cantwell's Iron Man, even though it's Dan Slott. I didn't read a lot of it, so I just went directly to Cantwell's Iron Man, and it blew my socks off. So That's the joy of comics, is that there's always comics to read, no matter where you are in your reading.
Here, my friend. Here.
Yep.
It's always there.
Yep, definitely. Well, Ralph, thanks for coming on, man. It's always great to see you in one way or another.
Well, thank you guys. I think the last one with this was about 2 years ago, and I know it's logistics. It's just tough to do another super show. It's a lot of effort.
Yeah.
But I appreciate these. Maybe every year. I like that the classic guys have been kind of doing their thing too, and that you guys are still appreciated. We like what you do.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you.
And we're going to try to make it a yearly tradition rather than an every 2-year tradition. Definitely, maybe, perhaps more than that. But I'm not going to put my foot in my mouth. So we shall see. Yep.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, great. Anybody else want to come on real quick? If not, I'm going to go ahead and go to the questions. We got Ryan, actually. Here we are. Ryan, where are you? Where are you in the... There we are. I see you. Bringing you in and in the spotlight. And boom. Ryan, how are you? We can't hear you. Still can't. Check your Skype settings there, my friend. You might have to adjust the mic.
I think you should just hold up signs.
Love Actually.
Think fast.
Yeah, right?
I was going to say we didn't talk enough about Wakanda Forever, in that it was mostly, a female-led movie,
yes.
in the sense that the women were running the show instead of sort of having to deal with the male trauma of the first movie. They were getting to sort of run herd on story. I thought that was really great, and I thought it was great that they didn't hang a lantern on it. It just was. And it's, a sort of matriarchal society anyway. So it was nice to see that. And I hope that means we can have more of those sort of movies if guys are into that sort of thing, because they were awesome.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They were the strongest
wonderful
characters in the entire film. No question about it. Yeah, no, I love that about it. Ryan, have you fixed your issues? Let's see. No, we still cannot hear you, unfortunately.
Sorry, man.
All right. What I will suggest to you is try leaving and coming back and seeing if that helps. And if not, then we will talk to you next time around, my friend. All right, great.
I feel like Brian ran into that situation where someone's waiting on hold to get onto a radio show, and when they get the shot, they're like distracted with something else, or they fall asleep.
You still have your I'm sorry, you still have your radio on in the background. Can you please turn that off? You have your radio on. Oh man. Well, while we're waiting for that, I will go to the well of questions a little bit, as we did have a bunch of questions we didn't get to the last time around, and we may as well do that. And for that matter, if any of the people on the call have things that they would like to add on any of these questions, please, by all means. We'll begin with Robert Owens, and he has a pretty weighty one. And Murd, I don't know how much you'll be able to answer this, but thoughts on your favorite comic book arc, mainstream and indie, from the past 5 years?
Boy.
I mean, I can say. I'm sure, Chris, you would probably say Immortal Hulk, right? For the
definitely Immortal Hulk. Although I was a little disappointed by the end, but
yeah.
Overall, I thought it was masterful.
Yep. I would say, it hasn't finished yet, but I am loving She-Hulk, as I said, so that's probably going to be up there for me. And then obviously, Cantwell's Iron Man, and what he's been doing with that.
Nightwing.
Nightwing. Yes.
Nightwing. Yeah,
that Nightwing
that's
is
really good.
That's in a class by itself.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Kirkman, Kirkman's firepower goes up there for me. Kirkman and Somni's firepower has been terrific. So I would definitely add that to the bunch of stuff for the last 5 years. That's really been doing it.
And for indies, I would say, what I always say, Lazarus, the Reckless books that Brubaker and Phillips have been doing. You said last 5 years?
Yeah, last 5 years. Yeah.
Okay, so
The last 5 years, I liked that the X-Men reboot, the big one. Was it Hickman that did that?
Yeah,
that brought me back into
initially.
X-Men
That was
for a while.
thrilling.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm sure there's any number of Tom King written things we could mention here too.
Yeah.
The past 5 years.
Yeah.
Well, Strange Adventures I thought was
Strange
superb.
Adventures, Mr. Miracle.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
The Vision, like that was.
Yeah.
Woo, that's not what you expected. That was a great story.
Yeah. That was the beginning of something special. Yeah. Ryan did post his question into the chat. By the way,
Space Age is freaking awesome, Ryan.
He asked about
man.
Superman Space Age in particular.
Oh.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, and I
have to read that. I have not started that
Shane,
yet.
you'll love it. I was disappointed because I went to my LCS because I thought issue 3 was coming out. It's been delayed till February.
Oh no.
But it's if you like Mike Allred's artwork, this book is a feast because it's taking place. They're going from the 60s to the 70s, so you see all the fashion and just the way he renders these characters. Again, that pop art feel to it, and the story is so compelling. The basis of it is the world is coming to an end, and it just looks like Superman cannot stop it.
Yep. It's like DC: The New Frontier meets Superman life story.
Yeah.
And it's all drawn by Allred. And we get everything from Silver Agey goodness all the way up to like the Crisis period because that's what it's supposedly building up to. So you see Allred drawing characters like Pariah and the Anti-Monitor.
Oh wow!
My God.
It's breathtaking. I'm so glad Brian mentioned that because I should have mentioned. I forgot because I just read the two of them just last week, back to back. It's superb.
Well, I'm glad that Ryan did mention it, and I will safely say that I am going to get that in hardcover when it is available. Because
it'll be a beautiful
I'll
hardcover.
have to look for that in hardcover.
Yeah.
That'll be something.
Yeah, that's highest recommendation.
Because he already did that run on Silver Surfer.
Did he ever?
Really good. That was very Doctor Who-ish.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The fact that was
got
mentioned.
pants to buy some Marvel books.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was mentioned at least in passing in your in the classic Geek Speed that came out because I think that was around the time that it was coming out, if I remember correctly.
Yes, we did talk about it a little bit. Yep.
Excellent. Matt Gleason has a question specifically for Chris. I know Chris loves Claremont's X-Men run. Of course, he's correct. But I don't know if he's ever specifically mentioned who his favorite X-Men member is or was.
Oh. Ooh. That's a tough question. You know what? I'd have to say, and I know a lot of people will find this a boring selection. It's Cyclops.
It is a boring selection.
Yeah. Well, the reason it is because the Claremont run really explores the burden of leadership he carries and how really emotionally kind of stunted he is and closed off and how he struggles just to kind of find his footing because he's a natural leader and a brilliant tactician. But when it comes to human interaction, he really struggles. And the Dark Phoenix saga and all those stories leading up to the Proteus and all those classics really get into Scott Summers, the person. And if you take, and this is another good example, I was going to mention this too, when you get to the front of the Ashes period, which Ian just brought up here as well, all that, and just how much even though he's a brilliant leader, it's kind of situation like where someone's really good at something, but they're terrible at everything else in life. And that's really, I think, what really goes with Scott Summers. And I mean, I love all these characters, but he's the one I've always really found in many ways the most interesting because he's in many ways, such a damaged person. And I think Claremont doesn't shy away from that and really explores it. And I mean, granted, when they got into that whole X Factor thing, which I really wish they hadn't done, they really, fudge him up even more because Gene's back. And, again, I wish they hadn't done any of that. But he's a character I've always really enjoyed. I also really loved in the Australian team period where Rogue is battling with Carol Danvers in her head. And sometimes Carol Danvers manifests herself. And I thought all of that characterization was really captured well because Rogue is also such a troubled, fragmented character who you're not always necessarily totally sympathetic to. And I think Claremont did a wonderful job of capturing how tormented she is and how she's struggling to to kind of do right by herself and also by Carol. And of course, who doesn't love Wolverine, right? But for me, I'd have to say it's Scott.
Yeah. I'm going to throw it out to the rest of the geeks here. Shane, who's your favorite?
Nightcrawler.
Nice, great. I mean, he's swashbuckler. Come on.
Yeah, fantastic imagination, incredible power. I love whenever it's drawn in, it's Bamf. I would love to hear Bamf come through in the real world.
Yeah.
I know you'd smell brimstone and all that too, but I just think that he's just a fantastic character.
He is, yeah, and he's gone through so much over the years, and he still comes out jovial for the most part.
And what's interesting about Kurt is also that he's a character of faith.
Very much so.
And they really explore that in different stories as well. And even with some of the recent Hickman stuff where the X-Men become incredibly, complicated, in some ways very creepy.
Yeah.
You see him struggling with his place in that council versus that he's a man of faith. And great. I mean, and also one of the real highlights of X-Men 2, the movie, was the way that I think they kept Nightcrawler in that film.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Matt, what about you?
Well, it's probably going to be the boy answer. Wolverine, but before the House of M, I liked it when he didn't know who he was. The men realized, and obviously the claws are cool. I remember years ago we did if you had a superpower, I still say I do not want a superpower because I won't want that burden. But if I was forced to get one, it would be the healing factor. And one of the things that really came through in Logan and Days of Future Past movies is what's the burden of having this life and seeing people that you've known and lost, and you're still continuing on.
Yeah.
And then with what they did in the Days of Future Past, having a whole other lifespan where there was nothing but tragedy, and now you're in a completely different one where it wasn't as tragic as the one that you're used to, and you have to kind of get caught up, but you still have those memories of the past. And what's the burden of having that? So that's why I'm so fascinated with that character is less about the claws and more about the other stuff of the longevity.
And one of the only positives of that first Wolverine solo film, which a movie I found dreadful overall, was the opening montage of him moving through history.
Yeah.
Which I thought I was like, oh, this is great. Then like, oh no, it's not. But that opening sequence was
I could have just made a movie out of that instead.
Agreed. Yep. Murd,
and Matt, I think that Days of Future Past, that's my favorite X-Men movie.
Without hands down for me. Yeah. It's so good.
I mean, I would put Logan on there just because I do consider Logan to be an X-Men movie, even if it's not.
Logan's a great movie.
Oh yeah. Logan's right after that.
Yeah.
I kind of like the Wolverine more, but that's just it.
The Wolverine director's cut, Matt, specifically.
That's pretty good too.
Sure. Yeah. That's the one that I go for. Yep. Murd, who would you choose?
I'm with Shane. It's Nightcrawler. Yeah. Actually, when I first got started reading comics in the early 90s, Kurt was my favorite character in all of comics. That's overall, not just X-Men, but my favorite superhero, period. Yeah, for many of the reasons stated, that striking, Cockrum designed visual, the blue skin in the ears and all of that, the power set, the swashbuckling attitude, the fact that he's a man of faith didn't hurt. I mean, that's a trait that I always find both admirable and interesting in a fictional character. And also his German heritage is of interest to me as well, because I'm from a part of Pennsylvania where, as Shane is too, where just about everybody has a little German in them.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and Matt too. That's right. He's also here.
That's right. I do have to say, I heard a rumor that I'm going to start now that if Shane has another Halloween party, that you were going to, paint yourself all blue and go as Nightcrawler. So is that even though I just started the rumor, I'm going to spread that around. Is that true, Adam? And Shane, when's the Halloween party?
Yeah.
I'm almost willing to go through with that, actually.
That's something we keep talking about, and every year we never get quite to it. So we'll have to make an effort to put that on the docket again, because we've never had one at this house since we moved in here. We only ever had it at the old house.
We should point out the great riffing about Dazzler in the chat room.
Oh,
right now,
yes.
by the way.
Yeah. Kurt, you know what? Screw it. I will say the joke. Kurt, Phil Spector did a great job producing, but that's but I'll say my favorite X-Man is probably Kitty Pryde. For a multitude.
She's my favorite
reasons.
X-woman.
There you go. Yes, excellent distinguishing there mark there. But What really drew me to Kitty, when I started reading, was obviously she's one of the few characters that really shows their Jewish heritage in comics, outside of maybe Ben Grimm. I mean, come on, he's been bar mitzvahed. But I really appreciated that. I also really appreciated the evolution of the character, starting off as a 13-year-old, and then over the years, she's one of the few outside of maybe Jubilee that's straight up grown up in the X-Men.
Yep.
And you get to see her watch and grow and evolve as a character. Her time in Excalibur, and
Love Excalibur.
being one of the teachers in the school during the Wolverine and the X-Men run,
Yep.
and now being the swashbuckler along with the others in the Marauders. It's been a great character arc for Kitty over the years, and I really appreciate that.
And one of my favorite X-Men moments is, I forgot the issue number, 189, 190 something, where Colossus makes the mistake of telling her that I don't want to be with you, because he's infatuated with that woman who died on Secret Wars, Beyond Our World, and all that nonsense. But that issue is just heart crushing.
Oh yeah,
and because Claremont writes her as a young girl, like a teen who has this her first love. It's 190. I forgot the number. 188, something like that. But that's a masterclass, that issue.
And of course, she is one of the few people who has actually straight up said the truth.
Paul Smith, there's the artwork.
Which is Professor Xavier is a jerk, because guess what? Professor Xavier is a jerk.
Nominated for best villain of 20-something by somebody in this chat.
Definitely.
McAvoy.
Yep. All right. Let's answer maybe two or three more of these, and then we can save the rest for another time. Jeremy Hill asks, do you think movie / TV adaptations of comic properties are doing a good enough job separating themselves from the source material? Are production companies doing a good job in finding balance for casual and well-versed fans in the adaptations? And what adaptations do you find to be the most enjoyable? What other ones stand out as terrible? If you want to address that, we can after the fact. But some good questions by Jeremy on adaptations. And Shane, I'll start it off with you.
I think Marvel Cinematic Universe, yes. DC, not so much. And I'm a huge DC guy. I mean, that's my mainstay is DC. I think their animation's doing great.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the Marvel TV and movie properties are doing as well as what the DC movie and TV properties are doing as well as the Marvel movies and TV properties. And Marvel does such a great job of taking what's familiar. Even if they change it, it makes sense for the universe they're creating and continuing to build on it. And I think DC for a number of years is just struggling with that. And I don't know why they're for years being owned by Warner Brothers and still can't get longevity out of their characters. And they just keep going back to Batman and Superman. And I love Batman and Superman, but they've really struggled to get out of that.
Well, with the
exception of Wonder Woman, that's my favorite.
Well, the first Wonder Woman.
Yeah, the first Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I think we're on a decent path here with DC, and I'm actually like kind of looking forward to the future in a lot of different ways. Shazam,
cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, the next Shazam movie looks great. I hope the Flash movie never comes out. And from there, whatever the new path from here with James Gunn at the helm, wherever he decides to take things, so be it. The Batman, I enjoyed a great deal, and look forward to whatever sequel for that comes down the road. We've got a Penguin series coming out on HBO Max, which could be interesting. Release Batgirl, you cowards. I agree immensely, Julie.
Oh my gosh. I cannot believe that still is not going to be released. That blows my mind.
I know.
I was looking so forward to that.
It boggles the mind. But
it does.
I think that in the initial question, specifically, are they doing a good enough job of separating themselves from the source material? I would say yes, because all you got to do is look at stuff like Civil War as an example, where Captain America's Civil War is very different than Captain America's Civil War in the comics. Some story beats are there, some are not, but that's because it's a cinematic universe versus the comics. You can't put everything in there. It wouldn't make sense for a clone of Thor to suddenly show up. Like it's just not a thing that would have made any sense in the universe as where it was standing. With DC also, I do think they've also done a good job of separating themselves from the comics because for the most part, they're original storylines that they've been working off of, for good or for bad. So, we could have some better movies coming out of DC and perhaps we shall, but the separation I think has definitely been there in a lot of good ways. So for that question, I say good enough job so far. Murd, what do you think?
Well, my position on the issue has been pretty clearly and strongly stated over the years.
Yeah.
The way the question is phrased, are they doing a good enough job of distinguishing the adaptations from the comics? It sort of presumes that distinguishing the adaptation from the comics should be a goal of the creative teams. Whereas, in my opinion, adaptation should cleave as closely to the source material as possible. So if anything, I think most of the adaptations are doing too good a job of distinguishing themselves from the source material. As far as which ones I think are doing the best or worst job of adapting the source material to my standards of quality, I bring it up maybe just because I've seen it recently, take what I say with a grain of salt because I've only seen the first 3 episodes, but She-Hulk does a great job of capturing the tone as you've said before, Ian, of the Dan Slott series. It's the humor is there, the occasional fourth wall breaking. I mean, it is what people who have read She-Hulk comics should expect from a She-Hulk series, I think.
Absolutely.
So there's one example. And I'm also very fond of the Stargirl series that's on the CW lately. I'm like 4 or 5 episodes behind on the current season. But
unfortunately, the last season, by the way, Murray,
I was just going to ask, didn't they didn't renew it, did they?
Yeah, this is the final season of the show.
That's painful.
That is kind of a shame since the season has not been... It's been a little draggy, to be honest. The whole thing is one long whodunit mystery.
Okay.
And I was hoping that they'd be able to pick things up a little bit pace-wise in the 4th season, but if there's not going to be a 4th season, alas and alack.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like what's being done. That you can tell that this is a labor of love for Jeff Johns as like the executive producer or whatever his title is, showrunner, because it's a character based on his late sister.
Oh yeah,
and so it's got a lot of the stuff that he brings to the things that he does with Golden Age legacy characters in DC. It's the Blue Valley, Nebraska setting. Rings true for like a DC Universe locale. Yeah, so that's an example of what I think is an effective adaptation.
There you go, Matt.
I don't know. I think there's going to be some. I agree with Adam, where if you're going to adapt something, it should be closer to the storyline. I'm thinking about Phase 4 of Marvel hasn't really been doing much for me. In fact, there's a lot that I've just either have no interest in, or it's one of these. It's not a high priority like the first 3 phases were. But I also think there's kind of. But I remember like early on where they would take kind of certain storylines and kind of merge them into like to me still the pillar of the MCU is Winter Soldier. And I felt as though they took like Nick Fury versus S.H.I.E.L.D. from there. They added a political thriller in there. They had Winter Soldier storyline, and they put everything together. So it wasn't an adaptation of any one of those stories, but it felt nice. And then, like with Civil War, which again, that's one of the movies I put forward at the top because I really enjoyed it. I just remember going in there with all these expectations that Cap's going to get killed at the end of it. Could we potentially see Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock show up to represent him when he gets... So I remember having, because of the storyline and looking for the adaptation, these expectations going in. And then when you come out, it's like, well, none of that happened that we were hoping for. And that's kind of where I am right now with, I know you got one of the things, I haven't seen Wakanda Forever. One of the things that I found out was, there's no spoiler because it doesn't happen, is rumblings before was that Doom was actually a part of the conflict between Wakanda and Namor. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, that'd be cool. Even if it's just a post-credit scene that you see that he was the one that was kind of stirring this up. I was all in. I heard that Lake Bell, one of the rumors that she was going to be a character that's connected with Doom, and that's why her role was kind of hush-hush of who she was playing, even though that obviously, from what I hear, is not the case. So I had those expectations, and then when I found out none of that happens, then I was like, no, some of the things I was really hoping for are there. So again, it's going to be subjective. Are they doing a good enough job? But on the same token, do you really want? I like those DC animated movies that they do that are supposed to be adaptations of storylines. But there's sometimes you're like, well, I know the story. I remember when we went to see Sin City, one of the big criticisms. I never read the books, but I remember Kevin said it's basically panel for panel of the books. I could have just read the books as opposed to the movie. Yeah. So I think it's kind of pick your poison a little bit. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but that's
that's pretty much the answer to the question. Yeah, I think that for that matter, it also really just depends on whatever storyline you're working off and what makes sense for the movie itself. You know, it like not everything's going to make it to the screen, no matter what you try. But there are ones that are closer to the source material that work, and then there are ones that are farther from the source material that work, and then sometimes you go somewhere in the middle and not so much. So potato on that one, I think, really. Whatever makes sense for the overall arc, and they should have been Atlanteans. Let's move it on. And
you're back on my Christmas card list, Ian.
There you go. Julie says a Dick Tracy CGS episode, please. We're gonna roll that into the retro movie review bank, and we will certainly try to make that happen. So we will let you know, Matt, when that happens. Definitely
on my way.
Yep. I will. Yeah, I've got two more. One's a pretty quick one. So where was it on here? Scroll back up. There was something about what voice. There we go. Yeah, Stephen Broom says, when you read a comic, whose voice do you want imagined being for the character? For me, as an example, Josh Keaton or Yuri Lowenthal as Peter Parker comes to mind. And I mean, I frankly just straight up say Kevin Conroy whenever I'm reading anything Batman.
Yeah.
There's
Kevin
no
Conroy
question.
is who I hear anytime I read Batman in a book.
Yeah.
I've always unconsciously invented my own voices for them.
There you go.
So
no, that's not bad at all. Yep. You're making your own audio drama in your head.
So when they laugh, they all go just outrageously.
You know, it's weird. So with Batman, obviously I'm with Kevin Conroy for the most part, but I find myself in like the mid '80s storylines when I'm reading it. For some reason, maybe it's because that's when the superpower cartoon was coming out. I think of I hear Adam West, not the Adam West from the '60s series, but the one that when he was voicing the character of Batman for Galactic Guardians or whatever. And Spider-Man wise, I wish I knew the actor from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. That's the voice of
that's what I hear for Spider-Man.
Anything's better than the tired old man who was Batman and the Super Friends.
Which I think he made an appearance in Batman '66 once.
Sounds like he was 90 years old.
He was a TV anchor in an episode of the '66 series.
Oh wow! It was Dan Gilvezan who was the voice of Spider-Man in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Okay.
Yep, Dan Gilvezan.
Which I think he voiced a character or two in G.I. Joe too.
He may have. Yeah. I liked that there was a later, I think on the Ultimate Spider-Man show, when they did kind of their like Spider-Verse thing, they tried to bring back some of the old voices. And there was a video game, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, I think, if I remember correctly, where they brought back Spider-Man the Animated Series' voice as, I think, Spider-Man Noir, if I remember correctly.
Daniel Barnes?
Yeah. Yep. Thank you. Yeah, Daniel Barnes. Yep, David Daniel Barnes. Sue, Chris Beckett is our final question because he is a longtime listener of the show.
Yes, he is.
And I want to make sure that I went to his. For the most part, we have covered pretty much everything on this thread here. So next time around, we'll have to do our new Q&A thread. Chris Beckett says, first, a selfish question for Chris. Have you had a chance to read Vietnam Journal? If so, I'd like your thoughts.
I read the first couple. They're tremendous.
Excellent. If any of the other geeks have read Journal, please feel free to chime in. I don't believe any of us have.
I have not.
Okay. Second, is there a title or creator you love that you feel very few others have read or enjoy as much as you do? That's a good one.
It's a really good one.
Yeah, it actually reminds me a little bit of the first top 5 I was ever a part of, which is the top 5 under top 5 underappreciated creators, I think is what we wound up calling that one. Which I'll need to find the actual episode number for that one as well. But
I mean, I can think of the reverse, what I thought was overrated that people seem to like, but
you could certainly throw that one out if you'd like, Matt.
Grant Morrison.
There you go. And I'm sure Dima would agree with you. Let's see. There we go. It was episode 1628, our top 5 underappreciated creators, back from November 7th, 2016. But there's a book that I've always been a fan of, and he's a creator that I actually have some artwork from. He did one of my Invincible like sketches that I got a couple of years ago. The name of the book is My Monkey's Name is Jennifer. And that would be by Ken Knudsen. And he recently re-released My Monkey's Name is Jennifer, I think as part of a Kickstarter, so it is back in print. And you'll find him at a bunch of different conventions, and he's just a super cool dude. One time I interviewed him on Comic Timing, and he literally gave me a shot of I think vodka that he happened to have at his table, and we both like cheersed and you know got the shot going on there. But it's the way it's described on Amazon, a comic like no other you've seen. This series is chock full of atmospheric art and bizarre mystery as a chimpanzee named Jennifer becomes mixed up in a plot by the evil Dr. Tunic to harvest people's brain energy. It is insane, and it was one of the first indies I got into in like the early 2000s. So yeah, My Monkey's Name is Jennifer is where I'll go for that answer.
I have 2 I'm thinking of. Sean McKeever's The Waiting Place.
Ooh, good one.
Oh, that's a good one.
Which is, in any medium, one of the most authentic representations of high school life I've ever experienced. I can't recommend that book enough. It's one of the first indie comics I ever read, actually.
That's with Norton, too, right?
He drew part of it, yes. And the Frame brothers drew the original run. And I'd also mention, I mean, he's more well-known, but Paul Cornell on Captain Britain MI-13.
Love it.
That is a sensational series.
Yes.
Which I don't think really gets the due it should.
Yep.
So.
And that whole Captain Britain and MI-13 run, man. I'll also mention the Madrox series.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, because that one weeds into almost everything from there in some ways. But then... the X-Force run also that Peter David, the X Factor run that Peter David did. I know it's not exactly unknown, but still well worth mentioning if you haven't actually checked it out. Murd, you got anything that comes to mind?
Well, I'm sure this could be a long list given time to think about it, but what has hopped into my mind in the last couple of minutes here are a creator, Don Simpson, the Megaton Man guy from the 80s. Yeah, so I've picked up some of the like satirical or funny superhero things that he did back in the 80s and early 90s, including the Bizarre Heroes. It was actually called Bizarre Heroes ongoing series, and I like it. I don't hear a lot of people talking about it. And the other thing is the Eclipso ongoing series that followed the Darkness Within event back in 1993.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it ran for like 18 issues. It was written by, I think, Robert Loren Fleming. And it was about Eclipso, the Dark God of Vengeance. After the events of that big crossover, he became like overlord of a small Central American country called Parador. And Bruce Gordon, who had been his human host since the Silver Age, kind of led his own little team of darkness, of shadow fighters, I think they called themselves, to take Eclipso down. And Chris, it's the closest thing I think that DC has done to something with the flavor of Wolfman and Colan's Tomb of Dracula.
Ooh,
that's nowhere near as good, but it's but it's kind of the same idea, at least. I liked it quite a bit back, as a reader back in the 90s. It was one of the first contemporary series that I tried to collect from DC.
Very good. Shane, you got anything that comes to mind?
I have a hard time kind of thinking about somebody that hasn't turned out to be well known, but I can remember like back in '98 when Young Justice first came out. I know it was Peter David written, but I can remember being kind of laughed at by friends for reading that, being so silly, but I absolutely loved it, and I thought that was a terribly underrated book for many years.
I wouldn't be reading DC Comics today if not for Young Justice.
Yeah, now it's very well loved, but that's that and like Gen 13 back in the day. I felt like I was the only one reading that, but I loved it. It was a fantastic book for me.
I thought you fellas were going to mention Our Man.
Good
Yeah,
point.
but we have so many times.
Oh, yeah. Same
Including
with
that
Our
top
Man.
5 episode that Ian mentioned.
Indeed, yep. Which is also obviously Chased by Dan Curtis Johnson comes to mind, but again, see said top 5 episode for more on
And
that.
to go with like the Hour Man, I would go with the Red Robin book that came out when they were trying to find Batman.
Oh, yeah.
That 20 issue-ish run was really good.
Maybe Nicieza and Marcus Toe, I believe.
Yeah.
Yes. Plus, anybody who missed out on that Robin run while Freddie was on the artwork, Freddie
gorgeous.
Williams. Oh my God, that was some terrific Tim Drake stuff. If you haven't had a chance to check that out. Yep. Matt, you got anything that comes to mind?
No, probably all the ones I could think of are rated. I can't think of. I mean, I can't really. I wish I could jump out and say, "Oh, that's anything." That would jump in my anything. That would, any storylines I would jump into my head would be, well-known people. It would be anything that needs their run.
Well, clearly the only answer is the Benson Sisters Green Arrow run, has been pointed out in the chat. That is underrated and wonderful. So yes, that's.
I enjoyed it.
Kurt's check is in the mail.
Nicely done. Alrighty. We had an email come in a couple of days ago. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it goes on for quite some time, and I will just send it to the rest of the folks on this call that are members of the cast, so you can read the whole thing in full. But Christopher Lunardini is the guy's name, and he wrote in a very lovely email to the crew that I wanted to at least share a couple of snippets from. Hello, CGS crew. It's the first time I've written to you guys, but I felt very inspired to drop you an email. It's Thanksgiving weekend, and as such, I've given some thought to things for which I'm thankful for. After reflection, I have to say that one of the items and groups of people high on my list are you guys at the CGS podcast. You guys have provided me with a great sense of comics community and your joy for the medium and everything comics. Listening to you guys truly is like hanging out at your local comic shop with friends, acquaintances, and wandering comic vagabonds, forever discussing comics, superheroes.
Watch out for them.
I know. with the only goal to talk, debate, and have fun. You truly bring love and joy of the comics world to the podcast and to the listeners. He's been listening since 2010. Going back over the years to catch up on old missed episodes and have thoroughly enjoyed every minute of it. You guys often accompany me on my drive to work and in the office during slow days. The podcast has meant so much to me over the years. I'm a huge comic fan, having been a collector since the late 80s, and your podcast has helped to inform me, entertain me, keep the comic fire burning, and has even turned me on to new and different comics. One of the most recent examples I want to share, because I think it's important to let you know how impactful your podcast is, comes from episode 1826, Return to New York Comic Con. In that episode, Ian talked with Danny Coleman about her comic, The Unfinished Corner, which, by the way, if you guys haven't checked it out, do so. The interview and her discussion about her book was so intriguing that I purchased it for myself and my family. I've not been disappointed by it. The book and interview were more interesting to me because although I'm Catholic, my wife and 2 boys are Jewish. Hearing about a Jewish creator who not only clearly was doing what she loves, but also incorporating her Jewish culture into a comic in a meaningful and entertaining way is not only inspiring but truly awesome. And CGS, you helped to bring things like this to the attention of the comics community. I was sad when members left, cried when Jamie passed, happy when new members came on board, and excited when CGS began doing video feeds of the episode. I'm overjoyed that CGS has continued to go on, uniting the world's mightiest heroes over all these years. I look forward to each new episode, especially the Crisis episodes, as I'm a huge Crisis fan. You got at least 8 hours of content each episode for that one, and have strongly recommended the podcast to other comic fans. A couple of friends and I even started our own book of the month. Actually, it's usually every other month, where we choose a couple of trade paperbacks and graphic novels to read and then discuss, many inspired by recommendations from you guys. You guys are like the Mr. Rogers of the comic community, and for that, I am very grateful.
Wow, that's high praise to be sure.
Thank you, sir.
I'll be smiling about that for quite some time.
Yeah.
Here's the 20 years and beyond, Chris Lunardini, who's Matches Malone on the forums from Aurora, Illinois.
Thank you.
Here.
I thank you, and I got to say, what you hear is truly how it would be if we weren't doing the show.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I wish I had a video camera set up for all the times a bunch of us were hunkered down in my basement playing trivia games and just talking comics we'd start something like 6, 7 o'clock at night, and it 2, 3 in the morning. We've got people sleeping on the couch in the living room, and there's still a group downstairs talking. That's what happened from like 98 to 2005, something like that, easily.
Yeah. I mean, I still remember pre-Super Show, one of the few times I got to be there like a day before, and we were gathered in Deemer's old basement, and we shot the shit for what had to have been 8-9 hours, and before I knew it, like I looked at my watch and I'm like, how is it 1 a.m. already?
Yeah,
it's great. Time flies.
Very reminiscent of with Golden Eagle, Shane. You'd go in there for your monthly books or weekly books, but how often. And next thing you know, like 5 hours had passed because you just start shooting the shit with people that's about different runs, about what's going on. And it was never one of those I'm in and out. You always had a scheduled block of time that you knew you were going to be in there for.
My job at that time, I was off on a Wednesday afternoon. I could have picked any afternoon to have off, and I chose Wednesday because 1, it was kind of in the middle of the week and a nice break, but 2, it was comic book day. So I'd go up to Golden Eagle and I'd get there at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'd be getting a phone call at 5, 6 o'clock at night from Carlene going, are you coming home for dinner? It's 5 o'clock. I'm like, oh crap, it's 5 o'clock already. 4 hours had passed without even blinking an eye.
Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute joy, becoming a member of the cast after being a longtime listener of the show, and I'm right there with Chris that like it's, and I've said this tons of times before, and I still mean it. Like I don't always have like that full group of people where I can talk about comics all the time. I did more like when I was in like college, but times change. Like you don't get a chance to talk to your friends doing as much as you used to. But getting to come on the call, once a week with you guys and talk comics and about the medium that we all love means a lot. And I would be doing it to myself in a room by myself if I had to, and I'm glad I do not have to. And trust me, these stupid jokes would be happening on mic or off. So I just want to point that out as well.
Oh, Levy Pooh, I just got soft and nougaty inside.
Delightful. And thank you, Chris, for all those drives to Pennsylvania over the past couple of years.
My pleasure, sir. There'll be more to come.
Indeed. Yep. And a lot of chips for me to leave behind at your house accidentally. So
they were long consumed.
I'm sure they were. Those barbecue chips, man, they are where
man.
it's at. They are where it's at.
Good potato chips indeed.
Yeah, mothballs every once in a while.
And Ian, I also want to note, and I wrote about this in the Facebook recently. Yeah. Your contributions to the show we cannot emphasize enough how important they are.
I'm not sure CGS would still be going if not.
It wouldn't.
Yeah.
Honestly, it wouldn't.
Agreed.
And I do want to make a shout out also for the fact that Deemer and Rios are and Pants and Shane and everybody else who goes on those just comic conversation episodes that you guys have been having lately. That is like going back home, and I love that I can listen to those and be completely surprised at what's happening with a whole other brand of comic talk, and the fact that we've had like releases that have had 2 or 3 episodes in a week. That's what I'm talking about, baby. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about. So good times all around.
Yeah.
Yep. Alrighty, I think we've just about shot our bolt, gents.
I think so.
All right. Well, I will once again thank everybody on the call. If anybody wants to say anything that has not had a chance to do so yet, please raise your hand real quick before we wrap things up. I want to make sure that we don't leave anybody out who may want to say something. So please feel free. If not, then we will indeed wrap things up. But thank you all for joining us for this. Really, really do appreciate it. And again, we will try to make it at least a yearly gathering, if not more than that, where we invite more people on and talk comics. So that's the way that has to be. And of course, once again, thank you so much at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak for the donations and for keeping the show running monetarily. You guys are the best for making that happen. And stay tuned, because I promise, I know we've been pimping it, but there will be some further content to come in one form or another within the next couple of weeks, once we manage to actually get our schedules together. And that nebulous voice that you sometimes hear on the podcast has a lot to share. So we will hopefully be getting more of that for you patrons and eventually on the feed. And I have a couple of interviews that I conducted at Anime NYC last week. Just 2, but I'm going to try to put it together into a comic timing extra point that I'll also run on the Comic Geek Speak feed sometime in the near future with a translator of manga named Zach Davidson, who's a good friend of mine, and also another comic creator who happened to be hanging out with him not too far from his booth, and also works for Vault on a couple of properties. So we see his name in the back of the book all the time. So we'll check that out sometime in the near future. Shane, I believe it's time for the Shane seat.
Okie-dokie.
All right, and everybody gets to hear that one live who's on this right now. So
as I still, after all these years, read it off my phone.
Yes. Shane, over to you, my friend.
Visit us at comicgeekspeak.com to send us an email. The address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. To leave a voicemail, the number is 267-702-6642. Stop by thecomicforum.vanillacommunity.com. Look us up on YouTube at youtube.com/comicgeekspeak. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. As Ian and everyone has said, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for everyone who supports the show. We appreciate it. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time.
Laser beams, opinions like the seasons on everything you read in comics, movies, games, toys, artists, come! Comic Geek Speak, comic Geek Speak, comic Geek Speak, comic Geek Speak, comic Geek. Uniting the world's mightiest heroes, this is...
I swear to God, that space in between just gets longer.